to the Inspire Wealth podcast with Prof, where we dive into the world of real estate investing and wealth building strategies. I'm your host, Mallory Meehan. I'm a real estate professor, attorney, and seasoned investor here to guide you through the ins and outs of creating wealth through real estate. If you're looking to take your real estate knowledge to the next level, don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our latest episodes and offerings. Welcome to another episode of Inspire Wealth. I am your host, Prof M, aka Mallory Meehan, and I am joined today with my lovely co-host, Amber McCollum, my guest co-host. How are you today, Amber?
Wonderful. Every day that I wake up, I'm so grateful. So it's a wonderful day. Thank you so much for having me on. I really am excited about this.
Awesome. I'm excited too. So, Amber, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you've gotten into real estate, and maybe some things you're working on right now?
Absolutely. So I got into real estate a couple of years ago. Um, there were some life things that happened, and I just realized that I wanted to do more than just have my 9 to 5. I wanted to create a brighter future. And I think that entrepreneurship, while it's very hard, is something that you can really use to do that. And so I watched a lot of YouTube videos as everybody does, and I went down the rabbit hole of wholesaling. And so I wholesaled for just a little bit, did a couple of deals, and realized that's not really for me. A little bit of my background is managing federal grants and just talking about money, which I think people don't talk about money enough, whether it's taboo or they just feel like they're not comfortable talking about it. I realized that that's a skill set that I really have. So I leaned into that. I joined a community with Pace Morby, and I learned how to really become a private money lender. And so I started out there and just learned the skill of capital raising. So from then, I wanted to continue it on. And now I am launching a fund for real estate. I do capital raising. I still am a private money lender. And for the future, I plan on starting additional funds as well for business acquisitions and really grow my portfolio that way. So
I love that. And I love that you are thinking a different direction and not necessarily the traditional, I have to own property to be able to make money from property. You're really looking at it as I have a skill set where I know money and I can then take money and use it for something else. So I love that. That's amazing. Okay, so I have a couple of questions lined up for you. And I would like you to maybe try to educate those people who might think, wow, capital raising might be something I could do. What would you, how would you help somebody get into this line of real estate investing?
sure. Well, there's several ways you can do it. I think first and foremost, you want to do it the legal way. So when you're pooling people's money together, that's security. So that's selling a security. So you want to make sure that you're doing it in a fund structure or following SEC guidelines for sure. So be sure to educate yourself on that. But there's other ways to do it. You can become a private money partner and essentially bring in friends and family and do a joint venture agreement where you can maybe help fix and flippers and go into people who are buying single family homes and be a partnership with them. And that's another way that you could do it, by raising money with people together and going in and making passive income. So that's a couple of ways that I've done it. And I think that when you're capital raising, so if you have a deal, you can also capital raise for that deal, right? So I raise capital for other people. But if I were to have a property, I could go and try to solicit a partner to come in, whether it's a private money lender or a private money partner. And there is a difference. One owns equity and one just lends for debt for passive income. And I could, essentially raise capital for people to help me acquire properties. And yeah, that those are essentially the ways to raise capital.
I love that. So, how do you necessarily go about finding the people that you might try to solicit to raise capital from?
Mallory, that is a wonderful question. I find them everywhere. Like, I talk about business and money everywhere. I talk to my Uber drivers, I talk in airports, and I travel a lot. I talk to people in restaurants, like anywhere I go. I do go to a lot of conferences and in-person events. I will say real estate conferences aren't the place to really find the money because everybody wants money at real estate conferences. So you can go to financial advisor conferences. You can go to just really anywhere. I live right outside of Atlanta, so I look for meetups and different just events to go to, galas, place to get dressed up, might as well get dressed up, and auctions. Hospitals have a lot of events. So, and they fundraise. And so you can just go and, I'm not really a salesman. I'm more of a relationship builder. So I just talk about what I do and I'm curious about what other people do. And I think that that's what has helped me be so successful because when you start talking about it, people really, they ask questions and then you'll exchange contact information and then it just goes from there. So I really just find people everywhere. You wouldn't believe how many Uber drivers have money or know people with money. I met an Uber driver in Washington, D.C., who was a real estate agent and he knew investors. And so I told him what I was doing, and he was like, "Hey, do you know anybody buying properties in DC?" And I was like, "I absolutely do because I have such a huge network." And so we exchanged contact information, and he was able to tell me friends and family that wanted to invest, and I was able to give him people that wanted to buy in the DC area. And so it was a mutual beneficial relationship.
I love that. I love that. And I think that you are spot on with it's all about relationship building and being genuinely curious about what other people are doing and figuring out how you can help each other out. Because I know there are a lot of working professionals who have a lot of capital at their disposal and just don't know what to do with it. And then conversely, there's a lot of people who have really strong entrepreneurial skill sets but lack the capital. And so it's like, if you can put those two people together, like it just is a win-win all around.
You really just, you're so right about that. And really, it comes down to what do people want,
Mhm.
right? Like, if people want passive income and you're a capital raiser, you can offer them passive income. If they want, tax benefits, then you can figure out how to offer them some sort of equity or tax benefits. If they just want to be a part of something bigger, there's one lender that we work with, and we call him Superman because he likes that. He just wants to be a hero. And we tell him, he saved the day and he just wants to be part of a journey that he wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And so I think it comes down to the skill of, those social skills, just knowing what people want and what people need and being a good friend to them and providing that because you're really providing people an opportunity. If you're a good operator, if you have integrity, if you know what you're doing and you have the right education and skill set, then you're making lifelong partnerships and helping people out along the way. And I think that's how you have to look at it. That's certainly how I look at
Absolutely. I think you're spot on. And I think it always will come back to you too. So the more good that you do, the more good that comes back to you. And obviously the converse, but hopefully we're helping people in the right ways and not in the bad ways. So okay, I really want to dive into this a little bit deeper. So you've worked with a lot of federal grant programs, and I want to know, based on your experience with the federal grant programs, has that influenced how you've decided to raise money and capital for real estate, or are you able to maybe help people understand opportunities maybe outside of private capital because of your work within federal grants?
it's totally separate, but what has influenced me, and it ends up being funny because the the partner that I work with the most that acquires properties, she says, "I really needed you on my team because you bring the real into real estate." Because what I am is I'm scared. I'm scared all the time. I'm a positive person in life. I'm gonna be your greatest supporter, your biggest cheerleader. But when it comes to people's money, I'm gonna be the most negative because I've seen just what it means to be compliant in federal grants. And that was kind of my role in managing the grants, was to manage compliance. And so you see what people do wrong all the time. And when you go to government conferences where the inspector general talks about all the states they had to come after, I mean, it'll put the fear in you. So for me, I never want to lose anybody's money. So I'm going to be on the most conservative side. And I think that's the way that it's influenced me. Really, private and public funds are completely different, but it just has given me that that lean into security and wanting to safeguard people's assets and funds.
I mean, if I'm gonna have somebody managing my money, I want them to be conservative and I want them to, respect that I'm gonna want to have some level of return. However, I don't want somebody to just make irrational choices. So I love that saying that you are the real in real estate. So that should be your catchphrase right there.
Yeah.
I put the real in real estate. I love it. Okay, so scaling a business. What are some challenges that you see when people are trying to scale their real estate business? Because I'm sure you've seen like people, they buy one and then they get a taste for it. And now they want to continue and continue. How do you help? I'm going to call them your clients. How do you help your clients navigate some of those challenges with scaling?
I think whether you're purchasing assets yourself or whether you hire somebody to help you raise capital, I think if you know the skill of raising capital, that every door will be open to you. Like you will just be able to scale 1,000-fold. Everybody needs capital. And so that's why I love it so much. That's why I lean into it. And I think if you have a good deal and a good if you have good branding, then I think the capital will come. Now, if you're just posting on social media about, hey, I can give you double-digit returns or things like that, I mean, you have to think about it in the terms of what do you want as a consumer? When I see that, I'm not going to stop and be like, oh, I want to invest in that person just because they said that on social media. I want to see someone who's doing the thing consistently that they say they're doing. I want to see. I love um, a good come up, really, like someone who has one property and then they got another one and they rolled it into. They really, you know, worked hard to do the thing that they say they're doing. And so when I see those people, I'll reach out and be like, how'd you get there? How you're 10 houses in now? Like now you're going for a small multifamily unit. Like, what are you doing? How are you doing it so fast? So I love a good story. And I think that everyone, if you want to scale, you need to post. People need to know what you're doing, know who you are, and you can't be shy about it. But also you need to be conservative too and realize that, you know, people that want to invest in you are real people, and anybody can invest. They can use their IRA, they can use their HELOC. There's so many different ways for people to invest.
Mhm.
But if you're going to allow them to put their house up to help you, then you have to be very, very, very cautious and just know that they're your partners and they're getting their money back is the number one. But I think it's hard and easy to scale in real estate at the same time. You have to be able to work really hard at first. And once you get the momentum, I do think it comes easier.
Now, I'm curious too, now that you've kind of been starting to scale your business and the amount of people that you've been able to help and, getting into public speaking, getting into events so that you can share exactly how you can help people. Um, how do you, what's your method of keeping track of all of these relationships that you're building and trying to keep it all straight in your head? Because I mean, I know for me, I like my brain works a million miles an hour, and unless I have something written down or I have it, in my phone or something, I can't remember it. So I'm curious to see what your strategy is to keeping everything straight in your head.
I have two CRMs. I think that's too many, honestly. I think you could do it in a spreadsheet. But for the most part, I use my phone for tracking just about everything. I put reminders in my phone. I put notes every time I talk to someone. I put notes in my phone. So one thing I do is when I have a Zoom call with someone that I'm talking to about an investment, or when I'm in person, I will take notes while we're talking, and I'll tell them because I think it's very important, eye contact, body language, all of the things. And I think if you're at a networking event, you can do some of these things differently than if you're just meeting somebody out. I'm not going to pull out my phone and just start taking notes. But if I'm at a networking event, I'll tell them, "Do you mind if I take notes while we're talking? I want to remember what we're talking about." And I take notes on the funniest things. Like I take notes on their what kind of dog they have. There was this one gentleman who he had a grandchild going into preschool, and that's what he wanted to talk about for a good part of the conversation. So I wrote everything about his granddaughter. And when she started, I was like, "How was her first day at preschool?" And he wanted to talk about her backpack. He sent pictures, and we kept the relationship going like that. And it wasn't even really about real estate. But then I knew he was in real estate, and I knew he wanted to lend money. And eventually he didn't lend money, but he sent me other friends and family who did. And I think it's because I focused on the things that mattered to him, and not what mattered to me. And so I literally, like, if you could see my iPhone notes, it's what are people's dogs' names? What are people who's having a divorce, which is hard, you know? One person just had 4 surgeries, and I said, "Do you know the dates of that?" And I wrote them down, and I contacted her. And that's not me being insincere. Like, I'm not asking about her surgeries because I don't care. I do actually care. And I literally want it to be a mission. Like, of course I want to make money. Of course I want to scale. Of course I want to grow. But at the end of the day, I have a heart for people, and I want to be real with them. And so asking about their surgeries, I would never ask her to invest right now because she's going through so much.
Mhm.
But I do care about her life. And I think that it's number one how I keep track. It's all in my phone. It's all notes in my phone with tons of reminders. So when I leave a networking event, that night I have to do it. Like I'll put in all the notes I can remember that I didn't put in, and then reminders of contact them in a week. And when I contact them, it's really, how's your business? What are you working on? How can I help? And then all of the personal notes that they would have never thought I would remember. We talk about that, and generally it forms a friendship. And that's really the magic of scaling a business. Most of everything I do is from referrals and from friends, and people that just want to talk just to talk because we met at an event. And so maybe maybe I can't do this forever. Maybe it's a backwards way of doing it, but I use my iPhone notes and reminders more than anything.
I love that. I mean, it's with you all the time, right? You're not going to ever have to be searching for it. So for me, I have, different notebooks, and then I go back through those notebooks and I'm like, oh, what did that even mean? What was I trying to tell myself? And it's like a guessing game. So I like the idea of being very, just put it in a note. I love that you go back and you revise them, just as it's fresh in your mind, and create reminders. I think that's a really great idea. That's a really strong practice to do. And it doesn't make you insincere at all. I think it makes you actually even more sincere and genuine.
Thank you. Because I wouldn't want people to think I'm taking notes just to be like, let me talk about this personal thing. Obviously, I would never remember all of that. I meet so many people, but I want to remember the details about people's lives. And eventually you do. You have so many conversations with them that you don't have to keep as many notes because they just become friends. So
That's awesome. I love that. Okay, so I want to know a little bit about your future goals. What are your goals for the rest of this year? Where do you see yourself going next year? And how can I help, or how can our listeners help you get to those goals?
so thank you for asking that question. It's one that I'm really passionate about. First things first, I believe that everybody should have goals and track them and read them every day. So I'm reading my goals 3 times a day just to push me, just to make me think, you know, forward thinking. And I also feel like um while I can talk about my future goals, I just want your listeners to know, don't set a goal so far out, 5 years, that if you do that, like, you'll never get to that 5-year goal. Set your goal for next week and next month and all of those things. But for me, my goal throughout the end of the year, I want to be on more stages. I do have a public speaking coach. I'd like to do a TED Talk. I have already started practicing that in other places where I've spoken. So I want to be that's one thing I want to do. I have a business partner that I work with. She's in commercial real estate. I solely raise capital for her. The fund does. And I want to see her scale. She is a women led company, and I love her passion. She's 3 years into it and has scaled to a $34 million portfolio very quickly, which I think is super impressive. And I just love the way she operates her company. So I want to help her get to her 1,000 doors. And so her goal is really my goal, because you need to raise capital in order to do that. So those are the short-term goals: raise capital for her deals and get on more public speaking stages. In the future, I'd like to create more funds. I literally want to just lean into the money space. I want to create a fund for business acquisitions. I'd like to take equity in that a little bit. So if people are looking to acquire small business, I'd love to lend to them and take equity when I do that. And people who are buying small businesses need capital as well. And I'd love to offer some of that equity to any partners that would want to come into that fund. So that's my goal for 2025, and then scale from there. So
I love that. I think those are
what
awesome.
are your goals? I'd love to hear that. I mean, you're asking me questions, and I just thank you. Thank you for all these questions, but I feel like it's a one-sided thing here. I want your listeners to know what goals for the future and how can we help you?
Oh, well, that's so nice. I don't know that anybody's ever actually asked me that. At least not on the podcast. So my goals are, I have a true passion for educating people. That was part of the reason why I created this podcast. My goal is to be able to touch at least 100 people by the end of this year by educating them through the power of real estate. I will be having a master class that will be offered. It'll be a 1 hour course on everything short-term rentals. So anybody who's thinking about maybe dipping their toe into real estate, I always say that short-term rentals is probably the best way to kind of just dip your toe to see, is this something that you want to do? So really talking about strategies there, when it's a good idea, when it's not a good idea, giving people all the resources that they need. I have a list of all the startup costs, because that's usually where people kind of misinterpret exactly what they're going to need fully. So complete list. I actually just went through this with my latest short-term rental in May, so it's really fresh in my mind, and it's something that, I think if people can understand the power of that, that's a really easy way to get into real estate. So that's coming up, and then my course will be on, just a foundation of real estate. So really understanding real estate fundamentals, understanding the terminology that people use in real estate. What does that mean? Giving people a breakdown of financials, like you were talking about money management. I love Excel and I love creating spreadsheets and being able to input different scenarios and teaching people about what that looks like. How does a mortgage work? How do leases work when you have a commercial tenant? All of those things, really educating people on the impact of local government and zoning and ordinances, and how to understand a market. Is this going to be a successful place for you to have a rental? And just how to navigate the space in general. And so that's really a course that I want to offer to investors, future investors, and even realtors who are going to have investor clients, so that they can understand what's important or what their investor needs to know, and just become better agents. And so those are my goals. I have 100. I want to hit 100 people for the end of this year. And then for next year, my goal is to potentially get this course into high schools.
Oh, I love that. I love giving financial opportunities to the youth. That is the perfect goal. With and everything that you said with your extensive legal and educational background and experience, I mean, I really feel strongly that you're the perfect person to teach a course. If I were to send people to your course, how can I do that?
Yeah, I'm gonna have actually referral links because I want to reward everybody and I want to be sure that it's a reciprocal business. And so I will have affiliate links. So just make sure you get an affiliate link from me so that we can keep a record of everybody who you send and you get a little bit of a thank you for doing that.
Hmm, I would have done it without the affiliate
Oh,
link, but
thank
thank you
you.
so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, okay, Amber, one last thing. What advice would you offer to someone who thinks that getting a fund together and raising capital on behalf of others is something that they want to try to do to get into real estate?
Starting a fund can be very, very, very expensive. um, Lawyers love, as you may know, love to collect the fee. So they will happily work with you all along the way as you're trying to figure out what your fund needs to look like. So the one advice I would give you if you were to start a fund is educate yourself on what kind of fund you would want and what you would want it to look like. Know a little bit before you go into the legal phase, because if you go into the legal phase first, while obviously you need to go into the legal phase and the attorneys are going to help you tremendously just with all of the things that they need to help you with, you need to know a little bit beforehand. So there's checklists online, there's masterminds that you can join, there's many courses that you can join. So I would educate yourself as much as possible before you go into the legal phase so that you can be well prepared to talk to your attorneys.
I love that. I love that. Amber, how can people reach out to you, connect with you? What social platforms do you recommend? How can we stay connected?
I am on all the social platforms um, with my name, Amber McCollum. It is simply just Amber McCollum. There's nothing else. I'm a little bit older, so I got into the social media with my name without having to put numbers or slashes or underscores. So I prefer Instagram. I will DM you really easily on Instagram. Facebook, I'm on Facebook. I have a large enough following there, but my DMs are, I have 1,000, so it's hard to get through them. So Instagram will probably be the best place.
Love that. Well, we'll put that in the show notes so that people can reach out. And truly, this was amazing, Amber. You're doing fantastic things. I can't wait to follow up with you to see how you've hit those goals. And I would love to stay in touch.
So much for having me on, and congratulations on all of your what you're doing, your portfolio, and I want to follow your journey as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Amber. That's it for our episode of Inspire Well. Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, please be sure to subscribe and give us a big thumbs up at the bottom. Thanks, guys. And for those who want a more hands-on learning experience, check out our online courses at inspirewealtheducation.com. Whether you're just starting out or looking to expand your investment portfolio, I've created step-by-step guides and resources to help you achieve your financial goals. So hit that subscribe button and let's start building your wealth one episode at a time.